Okay, there's a a lot of chatter around the NHL about the fate of the Edmonton Oilers. They're a train wreck right now. I sent a message to Dangle last night saying that watching this team play it's like slowing down on the highway to watch a car crash. You
I
know?
was the only reason I couldn't. I'm at a hockey tournament with my son, so we're sharing a hotel room, and I wanted desperately to turn the game on, but my kid was sleeping at a game at 8 this morning. But I was following. I stayed up long enough to follow Twitter
Yeah,
during the game because Twitter was probably more entertaining than the actual game itself. So I was just lying in my bed in the dark, following along on Twitter, doing exactly that, stopping at the
yeah,
highway to check out the car wreck,
for
the
sure.
18 car pileup on the side of the road.
Well, especially since they were losing to the San Jose Sharks, who have been a train wreck of their own since the beginning of the season.
Right.
But so there's been obviously one of the key issues with the Edmonton Oilers, and it's not the only one, but one of them is in goals. Obviously, as everyone knows, Jack Campbell has been waived and then sent down to the American League. So now there's been the look all around the league. Who could they trade for? And the name of Jake Allen came up, which I think is interesting. Obviously, yeah. So they need help in goal, but the deeper the hole they dig for themselves, the more significant the help they'll need to get if they want to, get out of that hole. So
Yeah.
you're not going to waste assets just to make yourself like slightly better,
Mhm.
and if you don't make the playoffs. So acquiring Jake Allen, I mean, it would not solve their team problems. I mean, they're still a team that's very sketchy on defense. Their offense is top heavy, and McDavid, I think, doesn't look like he's 100%. So, but at the same time, if they acknowledge that they have more than one problem and they try to fix more than one problem, then turning to a guy like Jake Allen could enable them to say, okay, well, we're going to devote some of the assets that we're willing to part with into helping fixing a little bit of that problem and maybe a little bit of that other problem, whether it be on defense or whatnot. So, like two medium moves instead of one big move. So, in that sense, I think that Allen could be an interesting candidate for the Edmonton Oilers to acquire. Do you see that scenario as coming to fruition to be viable between those two teams?
I don't for super. First off, I don't think the Canadians would be unwilling to trade Jake Allen. I think that that's a possibility they would be willing to look at. So it's not a non-starter, but you know, in a situation like the Oilers find themselves in, Ken Hughes would be absolutely bonkers crazy to not ask for the moon for Jake
Mm-hmm.
Allen because they have no need to trade him. Yes, they have this sticky three goaltender situation. Yes, they would like to get Primo more playing time. And yes, Jake Allen doesn't really figure into their future much. So those are all reasons to trade him. For one thing, they would need to find almost a perfect monetary match with the Oilers. Just looking at it, Cody Ceci has another year left at 3.25. I can't imagine the Canadians would want to take that on without some significant sweeteners. Warren Fogel's at 2.75. Can't imagine the Canadians would want any part of that either. And you're looking through the rest of the organization. I mean, I know that you mentioned Dylan Holloway as a potential Kirby Doc-esque trade. I don't think, as desperate as the Oilers are, I can't imagine they would be willing
No.
to send him over for Jake Allen. So it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless you make it into a bigger deal. And in which case, like, would David Savard interest the Oilers? They could seem to use a guy like David Savard.
Yes. Yeah, but
So
again, they need to feel as though,
no. They need something now. That's the problem.
yeah, they cannot build for the playoffs, or they're so far from playoff spot.
Yeah, but
They need to get out of the hole first.
but maybe, like, I think if you figure Jake Allen will help you get out of the hole for now, And then when David Savard comes back, he helps address an actual need, an actual problem that's leading. It's not just the goaltending; it's the amount of just grade A scoring chances they're giving up on the very few shots that they're allowing. I don't know how they would feel about David Savard. David Savard is not a perfect defenseman by any stretch of the imagination. He's his possession metrics, everything that you look at analytically, are always awful, but he is a tremendous teammate. He's a heart and soul guy. He's a shot blocker. He's really an ideal playoff defenseman. So, and if you're adding him to the mix, then maybe whatever Ken Hughes would want, which would be a significant ask of futures and young prospects and everything, maybe that starts to make a little bit more sense for the Oilers. So that's just me.
When you're offering an asset like Jake Allen, other teams have their own Jake Allen. The Canadiens will not be the only ones to have a goalie of that caliber expand that could be tradable. So you have
really. Well, who else do you have? I mean, it's kind of a proven veteran stabilizing force in goal that a team is willing to part with, that a team doesn't need on their roster. It's actually a pretty unique situation that the Canadiens are in, because they'd probably be willing to just roll the dice with Sam Montembeault and Caden Primo.
Yeah.
It's I mean, you look at who are the teams like Buffalo, do they have 3 healthy goalies now?
Comrie is about to come back. Yeah,
Comrie's about to come back, so they're going to be in that situation. But they have playoff.
Calgary just called up Dustin Wolf, and
right. But they could send Wolf back down if but yes, they could conceivably. Although Calgary helping Edmonton when they themselves are on life support and trying to get into the playoffs seems a bit far fetched. And then there's Philly, and Detroit, and those are the teams that have extra goalies on the roster right now. So if that's the subset you're working with, where we can go get a goalie from one of these teams that has an extra one, and maybe the price won't be as high, they're not as reliable as some of the other, like this. You can't bank any sort of playoff campaign on Jake Allen's shoulders. He's a good goalie. He's off to a great start, but he's Jake Allen. There's no mystery there. That's not a bad thing. It's just that he is who he is all I'm saying. It's not that being Jake Allen is bad. It's that he's not. But all Edmonton wants right now is league average goaltending. That's all they're done. That's all they need.
Oh, and Jake Allen would provide that.
Can provide that.
Yeah, and I know that we answered a question from a listener on Monday on the trade value of the different Canadiens goalies, and I think I stand by that today. I still think that none of them holds like real value league wide, really good value. But I'll add this caveat though: a player is not worth just what the thing that owns him thinks he's worth, and he's not just worth what most teams around the league will think he's worth. He's worth what a team that needs him actually thinks he's worth. Because when you
the forces of supply and demand fully come into play 100%.
Absolutely. Because when you need a player and and he meets your criteria for an acquisition, then you might be ready to pay more. And so who cares what the other teams in the league might think of Jake Allen? The Oilers might say, you know what? This is the guy that we need right now. You need only one team to spike the value of your of a goalie. So I think that when it comes to Edmonton and Allen, there's something to that effect that's at play. But it comes back also to the money aspect, though, because they're in a situation where they're money in, money out. They cannot add on any salary.
And the money out they would have to.
I think they got like $85,000 of.
They would have to pay. They would have to pay assets in addition to the money out, because the money out would be a sunk cost for the Canadiens. So they would have to be willing to send Jake Allen there, bring back Cody Ceci. Let's just say it's Cody Ceci. Canadiens have no interest in Cody Ceci, let alone another year of Cody Ceci, and so there would have to be a sweetener added to that. So that sweetener, think of how sweet that sweetener would have to be for the Canadiens to even entertain this. It would probably have to be someone like Dylan Howe. It would have to be something like that. Are the Oilers, and that's the other interesting part of this, is the Oilers are governed by what amounts to a lame duck GM, a guy who is
That's true.
trying to win a cup at the end of his career. Lou Lamoriello's done some wonky things at the end of his career, just in an effort to win one last cup. So,
well, Burge, when he felt as though his time was pretty much done in Montreal, did some wonky things too.
Hey, calling up Mike Hoffman on free agent day was definitely one of them. But,
yeah. Okay. Well, if I'm just spitballing, you didn't mention the name of Ryan McLeod, who's
sure.
So he's a big centerman, skates almost as fast as his brother. He's 24. He's like right up there in the age group that they're looking for. He's still got a decent upside. He doesn't make as much money as.
No, they would need to add more money to make it.
You know what?
Work.
Let's forget Edmonton for a second. Whether the Canadians choose to trade Allen or they move Primo, they'll want the third goalie in their organization no matter what. Because if there's an injury, they don't want to have to turn to guys who are already struggling to stop pucks in Laval.
Yeah.
So in my mind, a guy like what's his name? I have Irving in my head, but Calvin Pickard, who just been moved up. He's 31 years old. Calvin Pickard, he's like, he'd be perfect for that. He's a guy who would stabilize the Rocket in front of the net. He can be called up and help you out in a pinch. And if you send him down, he's unlikely to be picked up on waivers. So
I don't see a fit. I don't see the trade fit, the actual trade fit. Because Ryan McLeod and Calvin Pickard, right?
And a pick.
Well, of course.
There's
going to be futures involved, but even
of course.
like even then, I don't know if it works. What are they looking at here? Their projected cap space is $21,308. That's you heard me right. So even with Pickard and McLeod, it doesn't work. They need to add more money. They need to add another. At which point, you're talking about, I don't know, Lavoie,
or the Canadians retaining salary, but they wouldn't do that for like a $300,000. No,
and they're not, and it would bleed into next year. Like it's just not. It's not a fit. I mean, it could be, but that's the thing. It would have to be so ridiculous for the Oilers. Like the Oilers would have to do something so irresponsibly stupid for it to work as a trade. Like that's the reality. And so, because I don't think Ken Hughes is going to accept anything less than irresponsibly stupid as a return for throwing a lifeboat to Ken Holland,
For sure. Yeah. And he's in no hurry to solve that 3-goalie issue right now.
No, they're fine with it. Although I think they would like to see Caden Primo play a little bit more often, and maybe Martin St. Louis was convinced a little bit in Detroit with how Caden Primo played. But I think it's pretty clear the front office would like a bit more, not an equitable split between the three, but having Primo sit for 2 weeks between games is not ideal in anyone's eyes, really.